So, David, I guess the big story, I was kind of surprised this morning. I was listening to Elias's show for a while. It was breaking news, and I thought, really, breaking news? Someone else crossing from the Conservatives to the Liberals? That's a breaking news story. But it is a big deal because it brings the Liberals that much closer, one seat, to a majority. So give me your reaction to the news, because I don't think most people thought this was going to happen. Certainly not with Marilyn Gladu. Am I right?
Exactly. Well, technically, on top of that, I mean, technically speaking, Mark Carney now has a majority, because if there was a tie in the House, the Speaker, who's a Liberal MP, would break the tie in the favor of the Liberals, obviously. So it would get to 172. So he's there already. Next Monday, he will assuredly get at least the two seats up for grabs in Toronto. Those are safe, very safe Liberal seats. And Terrebonne is looking good. It's a toss-up still, but it's still very, very much in a possible Liberal win territory. But Marilyn Gladu, I mean, think about this. This seat, Sarnia, this is Western Ontario. This has been a Conservative seat, Aaron, for 20 years. And she's been there since 2015. She's always hovered around 48, 49, 50, 53% of the vote each election since 2015. And it's just a very, very bizarre situation that she would cross over, but it shows a few things. One, it definitely means yet again that you have, this is the third, I'm taking aside Michael Ma, who is a very peculiar situation. But if you look at Généreux, D'Entremont, and now Gladu, these are people that have been long-time Conservative MPs for many, many years, several election wins, that are definitely not associated with Pierre Poilievre, crossing over. This shows several things. One, again, there are a lot of MPs in this Conservative caucus that clearly are not comfortable with Pierre Poilievre's leadership. Right. That's an obvious one. But also, it shows how much Carney's popularity is huge across Canada. I mean, we talk often. He is still today the most popular politician in Quebec, all levels combined. But in the rest of the country, in Ontario, he's even more popular in Ontario than he is in Quebec. He's over 50% popularity. But for a person like Marilyn Gladu to cross over, we know the Liberals are almost at the majority territory. That means you have another 3 years. You're going to be in the opposition for 3 years. There's nothing really to gain in an obvious fashion from crossing over. She's been on the political spectrum. I mean, controversial comments on the conversion therapy ban, controversial comments on COVID. This is not your typical Trudeau liberal, And so it shows also how much Mark Carney's appeal has, gone more towards the center, and even, to this like red Tory type territory, especially in Ontario. And it's very fascinating to see.
So I guess the question this does call up is this idea of Pierre Poilievre and the position he holds as leader, where more and more, people have decided to leave. Mm-hmm. I noted in Marilyn Gladu's speech today, she's quoted as saying, Mark Carney is a serious leader, mm-hmm. i.e. you're not. And, mm-hmm. He's the one who basically, and I don't have the quote in front of me, but she's the one he trusts to kind of run the country the right way. So what does this do? Because obviously the leadership review was, not that long ago. He won it. What does this change? What's the process? I asked this earlier on because I don't know how this works. If there's, the rumor, David, we talked about this the other day, that there are even more Conservatives apparently ready to cross the floor. What does it do to Pierre Poilievre?
Well, I mean, in terms of Pierre Poilievre's credibility right now, it's another blow for sure. I mean, we've never seen this. We've never seen four members of a single party cross over in a span of months. I mean, we've never seen that. And so it does call into question, Pierre Poilievre's capacity to bring people together. These are MPs that came in before. I mean, these are people that came in under Andrew Scheer and Aaron O'Toole. It's definitely something that can be brought up. I mean, Aaron O'Toole, remember, Aaron O'Toole was set aside as leader of the Conservatives by an MP revolt. It was not a leadership review.
Right.
The rules of the party allow this, of the caucus allow this, for for members to bring up a vote, a confidence vote within the caucus. So the mechanism's there. Another little reported fact is that in the last week, Pierre Poilievre lost his newer communications director, person that came in after the election defeat last April. She left. She's gone. And so there's definitely a lot of unanswered questions. So could there be an eventual revolt? But the thing is, again, he's won his leadership review. He's staying on. And now the perverse effect of Carney's majority on Monday is the fact that now he has time. It's not like there's an urgency with his leadership, but definitely the questions are going to linger. They're going to remain. They're going to be asked. But now Poilievre can say, you know what? Good riddance. These weren't real Conservatives, and I can rebuild the party the way I want to. But at some point, if this continues, who knows? I mean, this is the problem with this. You don't know when it ends. And that's Poilievre's biggest problem. If this continues again and again, it's like, the old, water drop torture. You know, you one after the other, and eventually it could be fatal for him.
Did you hear, and I know this was discussed as well, are there others set to go? I mean, the convention's in town this weekend for the Liberals. You imagine that there'll be one high-profile announcement perhaps that takes them over the top?
Well, I think this one was the big one, because this also influences the Terrebonne by-election in an indirect way, because it shows momentum. I don't know if you've seen the images in Terrebonne. The liberal signage is, I think you see at least as much, if not more, Mark Carney's face than the liberal candidate's face. That's how upside down Quebec and Canadian politics have become, and how strong Mark Carney is. And so especially with local issues like the high-speed train project and other major issues like affordability and everything, you first of all, it mobilizes the troops to get the vote out with the convention, and now another floor crossing. But it shows also a lot of voters, and it does happen, you want to vote with the government. You especially in a by-election, you say, well, you know what? We voted Bloc for years and years and years, and yeah, it's something to be in the opposition, but let's try power for once. Let's see what we can get if we have if we're on the side of government for once. And this shows momentum, and people want to be on the winning side.
Sure.
That influences some voters, and so all of that could be very interesting for Terrebonne. But again, back to Poilievre, it's until you see a member that is part of Poilievre's inner circle, his closest guard. Until you see people like that, let's say an Andrew Scheer would come out and start criticizing openly, or Stephen Harper, come out of the woodwork, or somebody within, like his really close allies within the caucus come out and say there's a problem. Until then, I think we can assume that he's safe.
All right, let me move on and talk about François Legault. He's been giving speeches in French media. His, looking back on his term as premier. I kind of laughed when I saw, we always ask this, David. I remember when you were a cabinet minister, every time a poll comes out and you ask a politician about the poll, they're like, well, we don't really pay attention to polls. Yeah. Polls are, that's not. And what he basically did was say he wanted to run for a third term, but he kept looking at polls and they never got better. They only kept getting worse. And at that point, he says he made the decision to step aside and let someone else take over.
Well, first of all, François Legault, and even more so than I think some recent premiers of Quebec, was obsessed with polling. Internal polling was done at least weekly, if not daily, on certain issues, especially during the pandemic, for example. So he has always been very much concerned with his image and his relationship with the Quebec electorate. It's no secret. I mean, the whole offensive last fall, with what became Bill 9, his offense on immigration and trying, the Constitution, all identity issues, a hard right turn on many, many issues, trying to get back on top or start turning things around. But he just had to understand that, and it took a lot of people convincing him that, he was heading for a horrible disaster. But yeah, I believe that. I think he believed it till the last second that he could turn things around. But obviously the track record of this government is so awful. There was nothing. The connection is broken with François Legault personally, and that's what hurts him the most. He's very, very obsessed with his personal relationship with Quebecers. That's something that he's mentioned many, many times. How that's important, and he's made comments to that effect. Do Quebecers love me? Don't love me anymore? I made a mistake, and he made those comments very often in his career as premier. And so I think that's the biggest problem for him, is how he made it so personal, and that's why they've made it so hard for him to see the writing on the wall.
So, there's a lot being made of the fact that in 3 days or 4 days from now, on Sunday, we will know who the new leader of the party is. We'll know who the new premier is. And and the announcement today, for people who don't know, the suspension, of course, of the National Assembly, basically for the next month and a half, to give the new leader a chance to do what, David?
Well, first of all, organized government transition. I mean, even though, it seems like a very short time, because it basically, the National Assembly is going to be suspended till May 5th. And then the session normally ends at the beginning of June. So you're going to have 4 weeks in the National Assembly, but still, the premier and the government is still going to run until the next election, which is only like October 5th. So you need to organize government with the structure of the new premier, the transition of the staff, and also a new cabinet. We have to understand that this new premier, either Madame Fréchette or Mr. Dreville, are going to name a brand new cabinet. So there's a whole transition there. And that the prorogation of the National Assembly also allows this new premier to give, yet again, a new inaugural speech. And to lay out an agenda. Obviously, it won't be a legislative agenda. There will be almost no time to bring in anything. There's actually, unless, you want to force something through, but that would be politically completely suicidal. But the idea here is to lay out, to give the time for the new premier to show their new team, and also to lay out an electoral agenda and make the government theirs. So I think that's the goal there. But also there's a lot of administrative issues that need to be done. This is not, a simple task. The new premier might want to name new deputy ministers and the administration of the state to push through certain very important issues. Remember, Éric Girard, in his last budget, and I'll end on this, Aaron, his last budget, he set aside $1 billion for the new premier. Yeah. So that $1 billion, you're going to want to organize that and, make those announcements to be as effective as possible.
David, 2 words, who wins the leadership?
I think Fréchette will have it, but it's going to be tighter than people think.
All right. David Heurtel. David, thank you so much.
All right, my pleasure.
Unmistakably Canadian.
It's the music that raised you.
The artists raising the bar.
Hi, this is Bryan Adams.
Hey, my name's Brett Emmons. I'm from the Glorious Sons.
Hi, I'm Nelly Furtado.
Made in Canada. The station that champions Canadian music.
Loud, proud, and all yours.
No passports required. Just press play.
Tap into Made in Canada now on iHeartRadio.ca
or the free iHeartRadio app.